Okay, so I'm going to start by doing the front of this one. Dun, 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 by doing those rolls. Now, you would have to imagine that if I had a diadem that would lay on the front of this, it would lay in right here and give you that look. This is also great if you want to do victory rolls. little tutorage in that. So the sections I'm taking, again, I've parted off my hair, so the back is braided up. I've got my two just behind the ear parts, and I'm taking about 1-inch sections. And this time I'm going to show you what a soft back comb looks like. This is with a brush. And you, whether you're doing this with a hairpiece or with your own hair, you do want to back comb it to get it to hold that roll. So, and what I do is I take the length and I wrap it around my finger to create that sort of bun rolling thing. Get my hairpin out. I'm not really sure how they attach these. I'm gonna guess with pins of some sort, because I'm not sure how you would sew these in to your hair to make them stay. Personally, if somebody else figures it out, please post it. We'd all like to know. So once I get the tube the way I want it, I'm gonna spray our little tube in place. I'm gonna put a pin through the back to make sure the curl stays there. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take about a 1-inch section. Probably better to use a comb. Normally use my fingernails, but in all the stress they came out. Not came out, but I do acrylics because usually my hand's in a bunch of water, so yay! Oh, and this is also important. You'll notice that I'm back combing either in the direction I want the curl to lay or in what we call over direction. Okay, and you can use the brush to kind of clean that up. Clearly I didn't get through this section in the top, so we're going to fix that. Okay, now we're nailed down. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit. Put a little hairspray in it. Okay. So, can you see the ends? Kind of. Okay, if I hold it down here, you can see the ends. So, I'm going to take the end and curly cue it around my finger. And then with both index fingers in it, roll it up on itself. Like that. Now, when you pin it, if you pin it down to this hair, this loose hair, it's not going to stay. So you want to pin it back up to its root. And I usually leave a finger in there so I know where that pin's going. I'm going to take a smaller pin and pin it through the back. Okay, now this is what would happen if I didn't back comb it and I just wrapped it around my finger. So put it up, put it up, put it up, and this hair wants to come out of itself. So that's why we back comb the roots. You don't have to back comb the rest of it, but you really want to create a locking system in on those roots so that the rest of the hair doesn't do this, it doesn't fall apart. Spray it. You can either smooth it down with your fingers or smooth it down with the brush. Roll it up. Get it all set. We're going to pin it to the root hair from the front. I'm going to go around to the back and put a small pin in. And then kind of with my hand expand my rollout. Use more glue if you need it. Glue is our friend. Back comb, create a cushion. And this, when you're kind of doing any period hairstyle where you're going to be pinning a lot of hair up, you want to create a base for it to pin into. And if you have super curly hair, you probably don't need to do this, but it just helps. So get this one up fairly tight because it's going to be at the bottom of the head or around the face line. Get that bobby pin in through the root and then through the curl and pin it up in the back. Kind of flex that out. Smooth and spray, smooth and spray, smooth and spray. Okay, so right now we're looking very Georgian or, I don't know, 1950s. Shouldn't be going out to the grocery store like this. But if you sort of picture, oops, sorry, I didn't center that again. If you sort of picture this as the wreath wrap and put it there, then you get much more of that look in the front. Dun, 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 dun. And you can make the rolls smaller or bigger or whatever. I'm going to hit pause and then we're going to sew it back and show you how they did that. Okay, we're going to ignore these two braids for right now because I think I found a way to show you what the front would look like with them. We'll see. Might not work. Might be an epic fail. We don't know. So I have a bodkin, usually used for like threading elastic through pants or ribbon through stuff. It's got a blunt tip. Please don't use an actual needle on your head or anybody else's. A long piece of wool yarn, and I've created a loop at the end. So I'm going to secure this in the middle first. And this is one of the reasons why I think so many Roman hairstyles were braids, is because they could do this to a braid. You can't really do that to a curl. And then I think we're going to start this way. Come on this side. So you can see I'm going to then go through the hair and come up through the braid. And I've specifically picked a color of yarn that doesn't match her hair so that you can see it. Because you want to be able to see it. And you don't really want to go too far into the braid, even with yarn that may or may not match her hair. And you just kind of keep looping around and sewing it to the hair that's been secure. Also, they have found traces of wax in the hair and little bits of the wool or linen or cotton. And we think the wax was put in to help the piece, the yarn stay where you put it. Again, remember that we're doing this on very slick, pretty well cared for human hair. Roman hair wasn't like that. Nobody in the medieval times hair was like that. Actually, decent shampoo wasn't really conceived until about the 1930s. Pretty much every soap was a lye base. You know, so much fun. Now I'm going to anchor this braid in here to this braid so that they don't slide off of each other. And then I'm going to go back through this section and hit another section. And then I'm going to come up towards the end of my hair and sort of tuck my end in as best as I can. Come back through here, back back through the bottom. So what I'm doing in this case, because I have the end of the ponytail here, or the end of the braid, which is basically a wee, little tiny wee ponytail, is I'm just sort of sewing over it to help hold it in place, as opposed to trying to go through it, because of course it's a little ponytail, it's not going to hold anything. The thing would slide right out of it. So now that I've come to the end, here's what I think they did, is they did that kind of embroiderer's knot, or hand stitch knot that you do, where you sort of lock it in place. And then I think they went around the whole thing at least once, and then went back through a braided part of the hair, and then some of the hair that is just at the scalp, which is not as easy as you think it is. Bringing the bobbin back up, making sure my tail isn't still in there. And then we do that knot. I'm going to go around it twice and slide, 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 which isn't easy to do with wool yarn because it's a pain in the ass. Put that in place. Cut off a pretty long strand of this, and then tuck it up under the bun. So that's how I think they sewed that in place. I'm going to take a pause. We're going to go around to the front. Sorry, I just moved my camera. Okay, so now I'm going to take the braid from the back and come up through the front. This you're going to have to be a little bit more careful with. Although, honestly, at this point, you know, probably a diadem, you could probably create one out of trim by sewing it to some stiffener to go up and around it. But what I'm going to do now is go through the braid and try as delicately as possible to secure it to the curls. So at this point, I'm going behind it through the hair, laying the braid down, and then coming up through a section of braid. So behind it. And the nice thing is that since we did all that back combing, I have a really lovely base to actually put this needle through to hold it in place. It's really fun trying to do this without yanking all the curls down. Switching sides. Like that one. Bastard. Pardon my French. See, even professionals have this issue. Trust me. All the time. And then in this case, I could actually take this braid and tuck it in that curl, which I'm going to do because it's so easy. And then I'm going to come back with this one, come around the bottom braid base, which you can't see because my arm's in the way. Sorry, sorry, sorry. And then I'm going to start actually trying to just sew it to the braid that I anchored in the other hair. Hoping you can see that. So I'm going to come through the top of this braid and through the bottom of this braid and sew it in place, because I'm kind of looking to create that sort of standing up diadem effect, so that you can see what this would have looked like. Now, I honestly don't see any issue if you wanted to do this out of like a really pretty fake braid, and maybe, you know, put some ribbons or something in it. I think it'd be really pretty. This is also kind of a great way to hide the pins at the bottom. Yeah, just saying. And I know I have a bunch of period people on this thing going, what? Get over it. Hairdresser, we use pins. So again, I'm going to sew this last bit to this one. And it's nice because I have this curl right here, just sort of used as an anchor. and a place to hide the pin. I'm going to go back and through this twice. Right, going to go through it one more time, all the way through. Lock that in place. Snip that off. Cut that and tuck that in so you can kind of see how the diadem, you know, I mean, granted, it's not ancient Greece, but it's not bad. Dun, 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 dun. And if you don't like the curls showing in the front, the other way to do that is to pull it back and pin it in place. So I think I can show you that without taking too much of her down. So what I'm really doing is pulling from the back and kind of creating a conical shape where you pull the front in a little tighter, roll it in. In this case, I'm going to pin it from the back because we don't want to see the pin in the front. Not that anybody really wants to see the pin in the front ever. So I'm going to take the curl and I'm going to grab all of the center of it. Make sure you've got that rolled part in. And I'm going to tighten it by just rolling it and pulling it back a little bit. You see that makes it much more closer upper, because that's a word. It could be a word, you don't know. Okay, I'm going to lower her a little bit. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing with this one. Let's see if I lowered her too far. No, I think that's about right. So I'm going to take the main pin out of the front, hopefully without destroying too much of the braid in the front, which I didn't. I'm going to take the pin out of the back that I put in. So when I set this one up, I just rolled it, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it more towards the back, which causes the front to collapse. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you can imagine, sorry, I've got a pin that really doesn't want to cooperate with me, and I don't know why. Get in there. So it lays a little bit closer down. So really what I'm doing is I get my fingers into the back of the curl, and when I rotate it tighter, I kind of pull it back a little bit, which causes the front to collapse down. So now we have two versions of the roll. We have a flatter version, and we have the stand-up version. That's what the hair looks like. So you could really do it either way. If you wanted to be really dramatic, you could go for this one. And if you wanted to be a little understated, you could go for this one. There's the sewn-in bun. If you wanted to get super fancy, you could also leave, if your hair is thick enough, you could leave some more braids out here and create the diadem across the back as well. In which case you would need to flatten those out. So I'm going to show you how I flattened the front curls out on this side from behind by using this one. Sorry, I just had a terrified moment where I thought, oh crap, I'm not actually recording any of this. But I am. So when I rolled it up like this. So now what I'm going to do is roll it and kind of pull this back. So I don't know if you guys saw that. So rolling like this gives it the long tall. Rolling it and kind of pulling it back gives us a little less tall, a little bit more conical shaped. So I'm going to just pin the holy hell out of that sucker. So that's a more flattened curl. This one, right there is probably closer to the picture than these guys. The fun part about watching me do this live is you get to see all my mistakes too. And there are plenty of them. All right, so sewn Roman hair. Next, I'm going to do hair pieces on my mom, who has very short hair, so that you can actually see what that looks like. That we're not going to sew in. We're going to pin in. So see you later. Bye.